Hello, what is up everyone? It is Ewan and Josh again for WhatCulture.com. It's a double bill of news on this Monday, and today we've got some Star Wars stuff. How exciting.
Yes, we never ever get Star Wars news. It is a rarity, I would say.
Rarity once every Christmas these days, except for the one that just came out last month. Forget that for now. If you've been keeping up with the development of the franchise since Disney have taken over, which you should unless you've been kind of living in a cave that has no reception, you'll know that they've had a lot of films in development. Obviously, we have the new trilogy that was pioneered by J.J. Abrams, and then later Rian Johnson, and then J.J. Abrams again. And other reports through the year were saying that Rian Johnson has got his own trilogy, and then the Game of Thrones writers will be coming in to do their own stuff. But now, voice actor Tom Kane, who you might be familiar with if you've watched the Clone Wars series, he voices Yoda in that. He also kind of steps in when Frank Oz isn't around to do the role. He said at All-Star Comic Con, which is a great Comic Con, we love a Comic Con season, there could be as much as 9 films in development, and that one of them isn't. He hasn't heard anything about there being a Yoda one, which
God
kind of rubbishes those past Yoda rumors that had the entire Star Wars community, I'm sure, chomping at the bit for some Yoda action.
Yes.
First thoughts. How disappointed are you that there's going to be no Yoda film?
Not very.
No?
He works best as a supporting character, I think.
Yeah.
We saw too much of him in the prequels, I would say. And it is cool to see Yoda flip out and do all the Star Wars stuff. It has its charm, but it's not a sort of a driving force. There are far more interesting characters we know less about that I would prefer to see get their own story.
Yeah.
And in a way, I'm sort of pleased they're not doing a Yoda story, because I want them to kind of break away from these character-focused spin-offs, like even like Rogue One. I know wasn't like character-focused, but like these sort of spin-offs focusing on specific parts of like the franchise, and rather go into a story that you can tell over a larger span of time, like Rian Johnson or the Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I think the Johnsons and the Game of Thrones guys' projects in particular sound really, really interesting. Obviously, because we know nothing about them. That's what makes them so interesting. And I think it's probably fair to say that Johnson might be going further into the future with the time frame. But there has been kind of fan demand for the Game of Thrones guys to go back and develop the Knights of the Old Republic license, because we have seen those elements slowly creep in. There was a cameo from one of the Sith Lords from that game in the end of the Clone Wars animated show. I can't remember which one. It might have been Revan or Malak. But people are very much interested in those. And so there could be as many as 9 films in development.
This is the thing though. We know a lot of these movies already. Like we said, we've got like if this includes the ones that have been announced, it's the Rian Johnson trilogy. It's the trilogy from Game of Thrones writers. It's potentially Obi-Wan that's been thrown around quite a lot, and then Boba Fett. So that's 6 already. No, that's 8 already. We know of. So there's only potentially 1 not formally announced.
Obviously, we don't know if he said that it could be as much as 9 in the context of removed from those that we already know are announced. Like he could be saying that these are separate to the stuff you already know about. There could be as many as 9 going forward. What Star Wars story do you want to see the most? Because I think everyone really, really wants to see Obi-Wan, especially so in light of that tease at the end of Han Solo. Is there any character in particular? Because you said you're kind of fed up with them now.
I am a little bit. I don't really want specific characters, because I feel like either we already know too much, or you don't want questions answered that you never really thought to ask in the first place. Like, for instance, Boba Fett. Boba Fett's like a great character. He's very beloved, but I don't want like a whole movie fleshing out his backstory, because it takes sort of some of the mystique away. If you told me we'll get a whole movie on bounty hunters in general, and Boba Fett will sort of be a part of that,
that'd be cool.
Fine, get Bosk in there, get everyone in there. Do your thing.
Dengar.
IG-88. You can say anything and I would have to believe you there, Ewan. No, but we saw this sort of like in the cancelled Star Wars 1313 game, where I was going to focus on a part of the world we hadn't really seen before. And Han Solo Star Wars story tries to sort of shed some light in that, but that's more of like a Western and goes into kind of like space opera territory, where I would sort of like just sort of a gritty kind of down to earth kind of like bounty hunter movie. But then even then I would rather them sort of break away from the timeline of this original trilogy.
Yeah, I totally agree, because that little gap between episodes 3 and 4, it seems to be where everything gets set these days. Obviously, if you were a fan of the old video games this past week, EA announced that their new project for Star Wars is going to be set within that time frame again, and I think there is a desire from the fan base to see something just like genuinely new.
Yeah.
And obviously, the last time that happened, it was the prequels, and everyone had a bit of an argument about it. I'm really excited to see where they could potentially go with this. Obi-Wan, I think, is just to get it out of the way. I think they just need to do it now because everyone is desperate to see Ewan McGregor back in that role. But aside from anything else, I can't really think of much. I think the TV shows as well are going to be very, very interesting to see how they develop. Whether it's going to be the sequel trilogy or the prequel trilogy or the whatever trilogy. I don't know. I'm just really excited. I think the fact that they've got so many Star Wars films in production doesn't necessarily mean it's a case of quantity over quality. I think Disney can maintain that. And even despite what you think about Solo, I think there are a few of the places I'd probably want Star Wars to be with right now.
Yeah, 100%. I kind of agree with that. I want them to take a break in a way once J.J. Abrams comes back to wrap up the new trilogy. I would like to see that time period sort of, just like stuck there, so then it becomes better for when we eventually do circle back around and revisit it. I want, after that movie comes out, I want them to spring off and go into to explore different parts of this history, because we are very contained right now. Like you said, there are so many like bits of media that have taken place between episode 3 and 4 and now after that, and it's just perhaps a little constricting.
Yeah.
But either way, I'm very excited for it.
Yeah,
I don't put too much of a downer on it because it is good news.
Yeah. But yeah, please be sure to let us know what 9 Star Wars films you'd like to see in the comments down below, because there are obviously lots of examples to draw from the expanded universe. We've seen Disney kind of incorporating stuff from there before. But yeah, let us know, and be sure to head back over to whatculture.com for more Star Wars content every day, and then like, share, and subscribe, and do all the usual lovely stuff that you tend to do. I've been Ewan.
I've been Josh.
I'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.